My wife of 7 years wore a red ribbon on her wrist when I found out why it shocked me to my core. I'm 35M and have a wonderful wife who is 32F. We have been married for 7 years and have 3 beautiful children that gave me shivers of excitement down my spine when they were born. My wife, Marianne, has suddenly been starting to wear a red ribbon around her wrist ever since our last date night, July 18th, 2023. I wonder sometimes why she wore it. The day I found out why she did was the day I almost hung myself out of confusion. "Honey, you're back from work," she said with a slight grin on her face whilst tightening the ribbon around her wrist. "Hi, babe. The office was a bit crowded today, so my boss let me come home early." As I replied, a disgusting stench drafted into my nostrils. I immediately gagged to wonder what the hell the smell was and noticed it came from the direction in which my wife sat. "Babe, what is that smell?" I say, pinching my nose in disgust. "Oh, nothing," she said a few moments later. I looked at the red ribbon and noticed it was a bit stained, so without warning I just pulled it off. Beneath the ribbon was the most vile thing I have ever witnessed in my entire life. There, underneath the ribbon, was bits of torn flesh, rotting as maggots swarmed her hand. I instantly shrieked and ran out of the room, barfing in the bathroom. I'm currently writing this post as she is banging on the bathroom door, begging me to open it up. What should I do? What's the deal with my nephew? He's been staring at me for hours now. I visited my brother's house recently because I needed to lie low from work. It's stressing me out and I just need some time off of it. Instead of renting out an Airbnb, I decided to just visit my brother in the province and spend some time there for a while. My brother graciously let me stay in exchange for babysitting my 7-year-old nephew Caleb while they're away from their work. I'm proud to say that I am good with kids, so I agreed. However, ever since I got inside their home, Caleb kept looking at me. At first, I shook it off as him being curious about the new guy in the house, but days went by and whenever I passed by him or during lunch, he would look at me as if I'm a biological freak. One night I played a movie for us to watch while his parents were away, but instead of watching the film, Caleb was just staring at me for an hour or so. It seriously creeped me out that I had to excuse myself and leave him alone until his parents came back. I asked my brother if Caleb usually does that, and he admitted that he sometimes does that to strangers when they go outside. Despite this, my brother didn't see it as problematic since it's natural for kids to be curious. I feigned to agree, but really, what kid watches people like that as if they're trying to melt you with their stare? I tried opening up some conversations, and most of the time, he would answer directly, like yes or no. I couldn't bear his annoying attitude anymore, so I asked him up front, "Why are you looking at me like that?" He blinked at me, perhaps thinking how he would answer it with a simple yes or no. After a second, he uttered the longest sentence he ever said since I arrived. "Because I know your secret." My heart sank. "What did you say?" "I know your secret," he said again, this time a smile forming in the corner of his lips. I laughed it off. This kid knows nothing, I told myself. He's just playing some BS prank. I was about to walk away and ignore him when he said something else that made my skin crawl. "Anna says you should join her swim." Before I could ask him what he meant by that, he ran into his bedroom and locked himself up. My ribs felt like it was constricting my very own lungs as I tried to catch my breath. There should be no way he knew about that. Anna used to be my latest target from work. I broke into her home and found her while she was in the tub. I remember bashing her head on the corner of the tub first before fully submerging her face on the soapy water. I remember how she trashed around, spilling water all over her beautiful bathroom floor. How? How did my nephew know that? As I stood in front of Caleb's room, my hands formed a fist. I usually don't work for free, but I might make an exception today. My mom died when she was 18. Now I know why. 10. The day had finally come. I've been waiting months, no, years for this day. I'd read up on all of the history. I could feel the anticipation rising in my chest as the clock seemed to slow down. 9. My mind is beginning to race as I try to steady my thoughts. Even after spending months researching and prepping for this day, I knew nothing could prepare me for this. No, I'd have to pray to any and every god. I closed my eyes, trying to focus on the sounds of my heart racing, my fan, which is always on even when the air outside chilled me to my bones, and my cats, sleeping peacefully beside me. Oh shit, my cats. I didn't even think about them. Nothing in my research said anything about animals. Would they know what was going on? Would they be safe? I tried to focus again. 8. My phone buzzing next to me jolted me back to society. I rarely ever receive messages, especially this close to midnight. I was worried it might have been my best friend attending one of those out-in-the-woods parties. Was she in trouble? I reached for my phone to check it, but someone was holding me back. Fear. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't bring myself to pick up the phone to check the message. Not yet. Whoever it is can wait. 7. I felt like my heart had moved into my throat and began to pound in an all-too-familiar pattern as I tried to ignore my phone, as the buzzing kept starting and stopping as if someone was frantically trying to call. My cats began to stir, having been awoken by said phone. Shit, I muttered, trying to decide the best course of action. 6. Try as I might, I could not get myself to relax. I'd read the stories and heard the legends my father told me as a child. Most people are known to survive this far, live on to tell their stories. But my mom wasn't one of them. She passed before I could remember her. Dad said I was stronger than her, and I'd always believed him. But as time ticks on, he might have been lying, hoping that if he said enough, he could speak it into existence. 5. I opened my eyes briefly to see that the cat seemed to have jumped off the bed. The room was dark, with only a sliver of light coming from my window. I took a deep breath and shut my eyes, afraid of looking anywhere as the time ticked on, slower and slower, with each passing minute. 4. The pounding in my ears is becoming unbearable. I try to keep my breath steady, my eyes closed, and I try to count each tick from the clock. My phone, which had finally stopped buzzing, seemed to be making a new sound, almost like someone was trying to unlock it. 3, 2, 1. I winced as I began to feel the sharp pain in my left wrist. I wanted to open my eyes, but I knew better. Time continues to slow down as the pain finally subsides and my heart begins to take its regular place in my body. I knew this nightmare was coming. Dad said it was typical for our little country, for this little tradition that occurs on a woman's 18th birthday. Time seems to stop, and the creature breathes heavily over my shoulder. The tattoo is always the first thing to appear, symbolizing your future and what's to come. Children grow up hoping to see if they can be one of the special ones, and the creature knows this. It knows how to grab your attention. I focused again on the sounds around me. My mum was unfortunate. Nobody warned her of what was to come. She only knew about the symbol. Looking at it cost her life. If I follow in her footsteps, I'm in for a night I'd regret. I fought to keep my eyes shut as time ticked on, ever so slowly. And as I felt the pain rise again, all I could do was hope. Hope I make it to 0. My son confessed to being a serial killer. People look at me strange when I tell them I have an 18-year-old son. I'm 33. When James and I go out, we often raise eyebrows. Wouldn't be a stretch for strangers to mistake him for my sibling, or even believe I'd just crossed my teen years same as him. Life's tossed a slew of curveballs our way over the past 18 years, yet, looking back, I reckon I tackled them as well as any man could. See, during my freshman year in high school, my girlfriend found herself pregnant. Her parents were ready to hand the child up for adoption, but my mom, a pillar of strength she was, stepped right up, guiding me to secure my boy. Today, James is the epitome of diligence. Straight A's etched on his report card. Master of the court in the school's basketball games. Every penny I could save went to a modest car for him. He was everything in his vibrant youth that I wasn't. When I was his age, I had a 2-year-old son, a GED, and a job at the local McDonald's. Our shared space is a 2-bedroom apartment duplex, a stone's throw from James's high school. The kid's diligent, hardly needs a nudge to do his schoolwork. Evenings often find him with pals or outdoing me in our spirited Call of Duty face-offs. For a time, a thought played at the back of my mind. Could my boy be gay? Not that it mattered, but his absence of a girl by his side was peculiar. I broached the topic. He shot me this grin. Nah, Dad, I'm straight. Just holding out a bit longer, you know? Last thing you need is grandkids while you're still in your 30s. That was our sex talk. Between the internet and the sex ed classes I had to sign a permission slip, I was pretty sure he was clued in on the facts of life. A while back, he informed me he'd be out late. "What's the occasion?" I inquired. "A date," was his reply. No need for details, I thought, slipping him a $100 bill, with the simple instruction for him to be back for lunch. James was good to his word. After that, it became somewhat of a routine. He'd give me the heads up on Friday, and come Saturday, he'd be back, joystick in hand, playing video games before I could rub the sleep from my eyes. As for the women he was seeing, I hadn't had the pleasure of meeting any of them, but I reckoned he liked his privacy. Trust wasn't in short supply between us. James had always been level-headed, giving me no cause for suspicion. I'm more of a digital guy, getting my daily dose of headlines via Facebook and Twitter, rather than the age-old TV news. But for some odd reason, I found myself sitting in front of my television at 5 in the afternoon and figured, why not see what the talking heads had to say? Regret settled in shortly after. The screen shifted from some product jingle to the solemn visage of the news anchor. The news. "Later tonight," the news lady began, her tone grave. "There's been a disturbing development. Several women from our town are missing. Authorities are piecing together whether there's a connection." Our town was the quiet sort, and this revelation had a chill racing down my spine. The thought of my son being out and about while danger lurked scared me a bit too much. I approached him, my concerns laid bare. He waved them off, reminding me of his towering height, just a hair shy of 7 feet. But height's not armor, especially not against bullets, I argued. I know, having been a sizable target myself. In the dark folds of the night, a protective streak got the best of me. Unbeknownst to James, I sneaked his phone and slipped in a tracking app, just for peace of mind. With memories of my own invulnerable teen days, this felt like the least I could do. Hidden and set, I returned the device, and my concern quickly tucked away. I figured that if I ever got worried while he was out, a quick glance at my phone would show me his whereabouts. It was a safety net. As I indulged in the latest binge-worthy show on Netflix, the unsettling case of the vanishing women, however, had me obsessively scrolling online. In a span of 10 weeks, 6 women, all different in age and looks, had disappeared. No bodies turned up, but the cops were convinced something sinister was going on. The 7th name that cropped up froze my blood: Rochelle. She'd reappeared a decade back attempting to mother James, a role she was wholly unequipped for. A string of broken pledges and missed dates later, I had her undergo a drug test. Her failure led to the court severing her ties with James, and I thought it was best if he wasn't exposed to her decline. It was a Saturday dawn, and unease twisted in my gut. Rochelle wasn't a regular topic between James and me. After James, she plummeted into the abyss of substance abuse, aging rapidly with signs etched on her frail body. Seeing her was a stark reminder of the toll drugs taken. It amazed me she had lived this long, let alone long enough to vanish into thin air. Taking a deep breath, I stood before James, breaking the news about his mother. He paused his game, met my eyes, waiting. "Rochelle's missing," I muttered. "Police say there were signs of a struggle at her trailer." He stared blankly at the screen, unpausing his game, and with a note of resignation remarked, "Well, it's not really breaking news then, is it?" James and I treaded lightly around the subject of his mother, mostly because he didn't like talking about his mother. My involvement with the legal system was, in large part, due to one distressing incident during her custodial visit. She'd taken him away to her apartment, where, unbeknownst to me, she was conducting her prostitution business. The sobering realization that his first genuine interaction with his mother had him bearing witness to addicts lining up, cash in hand, for her services was nothing short of horrifying. The day's ordeal ended with a man James referred to as Stephen dropping him back off at our doorstep. He'd spent hours outside, shivering in the cold, jacketless. I rushed home to find him, and all he'd say was that his mother didn't want to see him anymore. Out of all the awful outcomes that could have ensued, his experience, though deeply unsettling, seemed almost merciful in comparison to what could have happened. I immediately enrolled James into therapy. With time, the vibrancy returned to his eyes, and the therapist's sessions grew less and less frequent. Up until that night, he had asked me about his mother about once every couple of months. In the time since, I think he may have only brought her name up once. James informed me of another impending date the subsequent week. My unease took root that evening, compelling me to check the app. It showed him driving to a nondescript address, then to an isolated location, someplace in the middle of nowhere. The app's features had eluded my prior notice, and I was taken aback to discover that the app had tracked his every move. To my alarm, it revealed recurrent visits to that very desolate spot over the last month and a half. A chill ran down my spine when the app showed that my son went to Rochelle's trailer, the very night she went missing. Skepticism clawed at me, but my heart, blinded by a parental love, refused to entertain the bleak whispers of my mind. Were it any other child, I would have faced the glaring truth head-on. In a swirl of denial, I threw my phone on the bed and drank whiskey till I passed out. I woke up with a heavy head the next day. I went into James' room and saw him playing Call of Duty. I took that time to entertain my curiosity, the need for clarity. I found myself behind the wheel and drove to that isolated location where James had been taking his dates to. There's a part of me that wishes I'd remained ignorant. Man, I just wish I didn't go there. The GPS led my car down a gravel road which soon went into a clearing. Trees, thick and tall on both sides of the road, were the only things I could see. But now a pond came into view. I parked, noticing faint remnants of a recent campfire. On drawing closer, its warmth still lingered. An involuntary sigh of relief escaped my lips. Perhaps this was just a clandestine romantic spot James had chanced upon, where he'd bring his dates to. However, the tranquility of the scene was marred when my eyes landed on tracks leading to the pond. Looked as if something heavy had been dragged. A growing unease settled within me as I noticed splashes of blood on the grass. I waded into the water, and about 10 feet out, my worst fears were confirmed. I stepped on something hard, reaching down. My fingers grasped a coarse chain tethered to a sodden, blanket-wrapped form. The cloth revealed a face distorted by water and decay. Unmistakably Rochelle. Shock propelled me back to my car. I sped back home and found myself paralyzed in the driveway. My heart's frantic beats competed with the deluge of tears, and a torrent of denials and theories to somehow make James seem innocent. The dark silhouette of James obstructed my peripheral vision. He was standing near my driver's side window, nearly causing me to jump out of my skin. Hesitantly, I got out of the car and was met with James wrapping his arms around me. His embrace was firm, warm, grounding. "We'll get through this, Dad. Just tell me," he whispered. I walked in the house, and after putting on some dry clothes, I sank into an armchair across from James. The silence was loud, tension thick. Finally, as my eyes are fixed on the ground, I uttered, "I found your mother." He responded, "Oh." I didn't know what I expected him to say, but his response hit me hard. It wasn't surprise or even anger. It was that same flat effect he showed me on the rare occasions I'd caught him doing something he wasn't supposed to do. I looked right at him and said, "Please tell me you didn't do anything stupid, son." He looked off to the side and said, "Define stupid." I raised my voice a little. "God damn it, James, did you kill your mother?" He laughed and said, "That whore was dead a long time before I clocked her on the head and dragged her to my car. Any whore that would try to sell her son for dope has been dead for a long time." I couldn't speak. I'd always wondered about that night. But James never talked about it. James continued, "You know, the asshole that gave me a ride home and told me never to go back to my mother. I guess it could have been a lot worse, but really that was the day I snapped. I understood how meaningless life really was. Of course I killed her. That whore deserves to die 6 times over." A chilling silence gripped the room as my son, with an unsettling calm, began a chilling confession, admitting to over 15 murders. I sat there paralyzed, absorbing every graphic detail he recounted, a tapestry of horror no young man should have been capable of. Once the heavy words stopped pouring from his mouth, I was trapped in a daze. My flesh and blood had just laid bare his monstrous deeds, and my mind raced, trying to find a way to save him from the bleak future that awaited. I mustered up the courage to speak. "James, we need to get you some help. This isn't a path you should tread." He was quick to interrupt. "No therapist can fix me, Dad. Let's not kid ourselves. My 18th birthday is around the corner. Soon I'll be out of your life. Besides, I have my own plans." I just stared at him, grappling with the enigma he'd become. 17 years of raising him, and not once had I suspected this within him. Days blurred into one another. His 18th birthday came. I'd quit my job, spiraling into a haze of alcohol, numbing the pain of the revelation. True to his word, the morning after his birthday, James vanished. A sliver of hope, That maybe, just maybe, he'd find redemption was crushed when the police discovered his mother's corpse in the pond. My son was long gone. A postcard landed on my doorstep a while later. On the back was a picture of a sunlit beach. Flipping it over, a simple message read, "Hey Dad, just letting you know I'm fine." I left it by the door, returning to the solace of my bottle. There's a nagging thought, urging me to go to the police. Tracking him down wouldn't be too hard, but the thought of sending my own son to death row didn't sit right with me in the slightest. That's a cross I'm not prepared to bear. The weight of my guilt expands daily. But for now, all I cling to is hope. Hope that somewhere he's found peace, that he's ceased his killing spree. He's always had charisma, a towering presence. If only he'd harnessed it for good, he could truly shine. He was a good boy after all. I went on a date, and I don't remember the past 2 weeks. F***ing excited. Finally, after ages of failed date attempts on Tinder, I matched with a guy I like. Who knows, maybe this will even turn into something bigger. But then again, I shouldn't reach for the stars with someone I don't even really know. He does seem cute, but I don't know him in person. Maybe he's someone horrible or a serial killer for all I know. Wow, your optimism never fails to disappoint me, Melissa. To be honest, I'm not the prettiest girl out there. And no, I'm not saying this for attention and pity. It's just that I'm 39 years old, and people have already made babies, while I'm out here still trying to find a man that likes me, at least for my personality. Talking about pity, my mother left me when I was just born, and my sister died almost a year ago. I miss her terribly. The pain of losing a sibling, it's like losing a part of yourself. I lost the prettier part, I guess. We were really similar when it came to personality, but not looks. Well, she was a goddess compared to a worm like me. Life finally seems to get better. The date's name is Josh, and we agreed to go on a date this Friday or today. It's been a long day at work, you know? I have to take a nap if I don't want to fall asleep on my date this evening. Having to deal with my diabolical boss screaming my ear off every day has had its toll on me. I hate it there. My colleagues hate me too for some reason. I didn't do anything to them, like I stole their spouses. Not that I ever could. I laid my head on my couch, trying to get as comfortable as possible. I set up an alarm, as I didn't want to oversleep my date with my possible future husband. I'm just being silly. I could feel myself drifting off into oblivion as the darkness engulfed me. I woke up confused as I looked around and saw that I was in my bedroom. That's strange. I remember clearly falling asleep on my couch. I looked at the window through which the sunlight bathed my eyes. Wait, the sun was set when I took a nap. Is it morning already? My date with Josh. Oh God, don't tell me I was sleeping the entire time I should have been in the bar. I looked at my digital calendar and saw that it was Sunday. Fucking hell, how could I be so stupid? How could I be so incapable of taking one guy on a date? It could have just been a one-night stand, but I couldn't even manage to get that done. I'm a failure. I don't deserve to be loved. I rushed out of bed, trying to find my phone as soon as possible. I needed to call Josh and explain to him what happened. I don't want him to think that I stood him up or something. I tried to look on the table next to my couch, as I was sure I put it there. Nope. I tried going to the kitchen and looking at the countertops, the bedroom, my bed, and my nightstands. Nope. Nothing at all. I even looked in the bathroom, but it wasn't there either. Apart from being stupid and incapable of doing anything, was I getting dementia too? Nah, I'm not old enough for that. My purse was also missing. Great, I missed my date. I lost my phone and my purse. Josh probably hates me and I'm still ugly. What a wonderful life I have. I decided to write in my diary as most of my emotions and thoughts were engraved there. It's not like I had anyone to share them with. It's sad, I know. Well, there is my father, but I doubt that he'd be into hearing me mop about how miserable I am. I opened my diary and to my surprise, my last entry that was on the 9th of June was the following. The 9th of June, 2023. Dear Diary, I'm so freaking excited. I'm writing this as I'm listening to Toxic from Britney Spears. I've just gotten ready for a date with Josh. In 10 minutes, I'm supposed to leave the house, but I thought that I'd have the time to share my butterflies in my stomach with something. I'll write about how our date went the moment I get from home. Hopefully good, as I should get my fat ass from this bed, as nobody likes tardy people. Wait, so I didn't oversleep. One may wonder if this was written by someone else, but I can assure you, no one can recreate my handwriting, not even the greatest of doctors. Also, whoever wrote that sounds just like me. The thing I'm worried about is the fact that I have zero recollection of the date. Was I drugged? No, it can't be. Josh doesn't seem like the type of guy to do something like that. Looks can lie. No, this neighborhood is very safe. No one here would do something like that. I tried to calm my thoughts as I heard the door swing open. "Honey, you've left your door unlocked. I take it you're home," my dad said, as I prepared myself for a lecture that was going to drain my soul out of my ears because I probably didn't call him or something. "You know, honey, your silent treatment is getting annoying. Stop acting like a child and tell me if I did something wrong. Not talking to me isn't going to fix anything, you know. It's been 2 weeks. Grow up already." My dad was yelling in the hallway as I took a swift look at our other digital calendar. The 24th of June, 2023. What the actual I've been out for 2 whole weeks. What the hell happened to me? How can someone be out for so long? Or could it be that I just don't remember anything? Wait, how long have I been without my phone then? I saw my father get into my bedroom from the hallway, and I could hear the most devastating scream in my entire life. It pierced through my ears to my brain, which caused an immense amount of fear that made me run like a wild animal. "Dad, what happened? Is everything okay?" My question was interrupted by the body laying on my bed, covered in blood. "Oh, my daughter, who did this to you? Oh, my sweet child." The pain of my father would be felt through the words that were coming out of his mouth. I could see his daughter, me, laying on the bed with a stab wound on my stomach. It was not a pretty picture anyone should see, let alone the father of the figure laying there. Murdered. I remember what happened now. I remember everything. My date with Josh was going great until I felt the urge to go to the bathroom. When I came back, he was nowhere to be seen. The bastard had ditched me, or so I thought. I drank my booze we had ordered in one swift gulp as I made my way towards my home. I thought about how I'd never find the one. I didn't look as bad in my pictures, and so the guy had thought I'd tried to catfish him. I'm bound to be unhappy. Forever. I was really tipsy, almost as if I was high. The entire walk home, I could not walk straight. Maybe I should try dating girls. Pun intended. They clearly have fewer standards, at least where I live. I entered my home, and as I was about to close the door, it was pushed back, which made me fall on my butt. In my drunken state, which is weird as I only had 1 glass of booze, I could do nothing but scream as the person in front of me picked me up and stabbed me in my stomach. He even rotated the knife to inflict more suffering, or maybe try and make sure he'd kill me. First, I was miserable because I was ugly. Then I was even more miserable because my date ditched me. And now I'm even more miserable, as I could remember the face of the guy that killed me. It was my own father. I knew he never liked me, but I never thought he wished me dead, let alone try and kill me. Oh, remember how I mentioned I was feeling high even though I drank nothing? My father probably paid him to spike my drink. I guess he might have read my diary entry from exactly a year ago. The 24th of June, 2022. I finally did it. After years of envy and hatred, I finally found the courage to end my sister. That bitch had everything that I've ever wanted. Why did she get to be beautiful, while I got to look like Frankenstein's monster? Why? We had the same parents, didn't we? Why did she get blessed with my mother's genes, while I don't even look like my father? Was I even his daughter? I mean, I do understand that pretty privileges exist, but I didn't expect life to bless her with everything she ever wanted, just because she got the looks. Apart from looking good, she also managed to get married to my crush. Do you know what that felt like, being stabbed in the back like that by your own sibling? It wasn't fair. She was the one that got good grades too, which led to her getting special treatment from our father. Our mother left us when I was born. I wonder if she did it because she was too embarrassed to admit having this both foul-looking and actually foul creature as a daughter. Nonetheless, while her death may not make me any less ugly, at least the jealousy is gone. I made her look like she committed suicide. It was perfect. Everyone thinks she overdosed on sleeping pills on her own, and no one suspected anything but the lie I orchestrated. You may be wondering why I'd write such a horrendous crime I've committed here. I had to get it out. She was my sister, and I'm the one responsible for her death. I'm sad that she's gone. My love for her was tremendous, but not as great as the fire I felt every time I looked at her and saw her having everything I never could. I doubt that anyone cares enough about me to read my diary anyway. May she rest in peace. I am my father's daughter after all. His acting is impeccable. Maybe I would have been a good actress.